Before we begin, I'd like to take a moment to briefly introduce our presenters. Timothy Campbell, Tim Campbell, Special Education Techniques, Stacy DeWolf, English, Carl Laroche, Biology, and Sonny Ruffolo, Chemistry, received an ECQ grant to expand and explore the implementation of video rubrics across their different programs at Vanier College. In the winter 2025 semester, they collaborated to explore different softwares and fine-tune the creation of video rubrics. In the fall 2025 semester, they implement them in their classrooms and research their effectiveness primarily from the perspective of their students. Ladies and gentlemen, enjoy the webinar. Thank you, everybody.
You seeing my screen properly?
Yes.
Perfect. Okay, so thank you very much. Just Jad, before I start, I just sent you a chat where Sunny's in now, but Carl was having a hard time getting in. I'm not sure how Sunny managed, but I chatted you. Maybe you can send them by email an access.
I'll
So
do the
thank you,
follow-up.
Nicole. Thank you. Thank you, Nicole and the OccuPC team for hosting us in this webinar. As Nicole mentioned, we're a team of teachers at Vanier College working together. We're very happy to have an ECQ grant to kind of expand this project related to video rubrics, which we're going to explain to you today.
So we are going to start by just talking a little bit about video rubrics, what they are, why we've decided to embark on this project. Each of the four of us is going to talk about what we're doing in our particular classes and disciplines. We'll talk a little bit about the process of creating the video rubrics, and then we'll take questions. And also, my understanding is that there will be a little question and answer period at the end, but if you have questions as we're moving through the presentation, please don't hesitate to put them into the Q&A spot, and we will address them.
So it's obviously helpful to explain to you, our audience, what is a video rubric. So the idea here is that we have an interactive video that is going over the expectations, the marking rubric, the resources needed to complete an assessment that the students then take a look at and engage with. What we have kind of discussed with our students, or the most effective way, is we have told our students that this is a mandatory step in order for an assessment to be graded. Now, obviously, that's not something we can actually create as a barrier to grading a student's work, but we are expressing to the students that this is an important step that will support them in their editing process. While they watch the video, they are cued with different types of questions. So it could be multiple choice, true or false. Depending on the software, it could be short answer or multiple answer questions that help them to essentially interact with the video, explaining what steps they have completed or are in the process of completing related to finishing their written work. And if a picture is worth 1,000 words, we figure a video is at least 2,000. So I'm going to show you a really quick 1-minute clip of an example of a video rubric that I have used in the past. It hopefully gives you a better standing point for double checking your work and making sure that you're submitting the best report that you can. So a friendly reminder that it's standardized. Up here at the top, we have observation report in all caps, then event analysis. Name of student, you put in your name, and the date of submission, you write the date that you submit it to your supervisor. The first heading we have related to the event is place, date, and time of observation. So I just wanted to highlight a couple of things from that quick little video. The idea is that you can see the teacher speaking on the screen. There are a variety of different stopping points throughout the video that students are prompted with questions to address. And it's essentially the teacher speaking over some sort of visible document. So it could be a Word document, could be a PowerPoint presentation. And while students are watching and engaging with this, they are reflecting on the work they have done or perhaps are about to do. So the initial intention was that this was a last step document, let's say, before they're clicking submit. What we've learned is some students prefer to use this at multiple stages throughout their writing process.
So the project began really with a realization that there were some issues with static rubrics. So often we're giving our students the rubric with the assignment guidelines, and for a major assessment that could be weeks in advance. And so students often forget about those documents or forget or weren't present, when we sort of go through the document at the beginning of the process. Often students are really busy, and so they're not doing the work when they have access to their teachers, even by Mayo. And so it can be helpful to have something to turn to that can help them with any questions that they might have about the rubric or about the assignment that they're trying to complete. And finally, we felt that rubrics are often used after the fact. So a student wants to know why they got a certain grade. We sit down, we go through the rubric with them. And we thought, wouldn't it be great if there was a way to make the rubric something that could help them work towards the grade that they are hoping to earn on the assignment.
Okay, well, I guess that's coming to me, who just joined right now. Sorry for the late arrival, everyone. I was in the lab right up until noon and then had a little bit of trouble joining. Just since I'm new here, can somebody describe for me how we're moving this thing around as I'm talking?
I'm clicking through. It's I'm sharing my screen, so I'll try to.
You're going to do it? Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So I guess we're starting to describe implementation of these with me in biology. So the idea here for me coming into this project, I had done a little bit more along these lines than Sunny and Stacy had. I'd already developed quite a bit of curriculum around helping students develop competency associated with producing lab reports. So this for me is about completing little small projects in the biology lab and then writing scientific style papers about these. And I developed a curriculum that you can see some of the results from this here that was working quite well. But then if any of you participating here are science teachers, you know that there's a brand new science program and things changed. And what I was doing before wasn't going to work anymore. The cellular biology lab that I was just in doesn't have any time anymore for all of this elaborate curriculum that I was doing before. And that just at the exact same time, Tim approached me and about this idea. And I thought, you know what, that could be a really elegant solution to achieve sort of the same thing that I was doing before, but with a much more restrictive timeline. So that's what I've been doing. I'm a very avid Moodle user. So all of this for me is based in Moodle back pre-pandemic, and then certainly through the pandemic, I used Loom to record lots and lots and lots of videos. So have some experience with this and have experience with H5P as well. So this is the approach that I'm using to create these videos for my students. And I also have all of the resources that I had previously developed, a whole series of rubrics. I have old student papers that I've annotated, and I have checklists for the various sections of the scientific style paper that I want them to write. That I previously had and I've now since adapted. Want to move to the next one? We're not going to play this video, I don't think, right? We're just going to skip right through it. But this is
an example.
Yeah, an example with a terrible image of me there, frozen. You never look good when the pictures of you get frozen, right? But there's my rubric with my face over it, walking students through the rubric and what they need to do. Students in the past have followed these rubrics, but my curriculum really had them practice and work and go through and get feedback. I can't do that anymore. So now I'm just talking them through it live whenever they want. And it's worked pretty well. So last semester I did this and it worked really, really well. But I want to skip to the next part, which is the caveat here, which is that I was teaching an honors science cohort. Were probably the strongest cohort that I had taught before. Extremely motivated students, not hard to get them to do anything, and they blew this assignment out of the water. It was really, really terrific. And they used these resources extensively and thought that they were very, very helpful and useful. So I was very pleased. We are, as you'll hear from the rest of the team, we're doing this again. I'm not teaching an honors cohort this semester. We're right in the process of working through this, and context, I think, we're going to see as a theme from this really matters. So not my honors cohort anymore, but I'm reading the papers as we speak almost. And the results are still very encouraging. Not as strong as from the honors cohort, but students are using the resources, it seems. They're using them well, and they're doing very well. Along the lines of what I had previously, I would say, which is good, because I don't have the same support as I used to, but these are filling in the gaps very, very nicely, it seems. These areas that you see here, I've improved them. That was from last semester. I've fixed these things, and I think it's working a lot better now. All of those things, I've done them. And we'll see whether students from this semester agree that this is improved and whether they have other suggestions. And I think that's it for me.
Thanks, Carl.
Yeah, so background, I'm a chemistry teacher. So I've used videos in the past. Never have I used a video to explain a particular assignment, but I've used videos in teaching during the pandemic. I've also used videos extensively in describing lab procedures for students before they come to the lab. And in my experience, those students that do watch those videos are much more well prepared for the labs. And so I thought this would be a nice extension beyond that to see if this would help them with their writing skills as well in lab reports. So this was the hope. I went into it a little bit differently than what Carl did. I didn't quite go through the rubric per se. I more used the videos as more of a guide for them to kind of explain what it is that I wanted, rather than going through exactly what my marking scheme would be for each assessment or for the different sections of the lab report. So in terms of my process, most of it was very much similar to what I did for my lab instruction videos. I would have made, I recorded videos, which is pretty comfortable for me using PowerPoint and being able to show my face in the corner. And in terms of, I didn't use a script of any kind. I just kind of talked through my process. If I found that I made any sort of errors, I would make sure to pause, because I'm also pretty comfortable editing videos using Microsoft Clipchamp. And it was a fairly easy and straightforward process to essentially just go one long take throughout the process, and then edit it afterwards. So I would end up with fairly long videos to start with, but editing them down as much as I could afterwards to make sure all the information was there. Now, I've already gone through the implementation of this. They wrote the lab report. I've corrected the lab report. And what I did find surprising was that there didn't seem to be as much of a buy-in for these videos as I was expecting there to be. It could be that these students are in a slightly different situation than what Carl's students were. I have only first year or first semester science students, and it's possible they're not used to having these sorts of tools, but definitely in terms of both how many students actually use the videos and what the grades were on those lab reports, I didn't see a significant difference in grades as an overall average from last year, where I didn't have these video rubrics, to this year where I did. But I'll get to the notes from the surveys afterwards. I'll leave that there for now.
Great. So we're all trying to describe our kind of real process with this, you know, and we're seeing various levels of buy-in. So I teach in special education techniques, which used to be called special care counseling. I teach a first-year course where students learn how to fill out these observation reports, behavioral analysis, different client profiles that they will end up using when they are being evaluated in their stage experience. And so what I found is that the reports have multiple different sections that require multiple different steps or different things or different styles of writing, almost similar to like our equivalent, let's say, of a lab report. Some of them have, you know, 5 or 6 sections, others have 9 or 10 sections. And what I was really finding is that while I was grading these, it kind of felt like I'm up on my balcony, just sort of complaining. And so the idea was to create some sort of resource for the students to have access to kind of my brain at any point of the time that they need it as a step to go through and double check their work. I have been implementing these for 3 or 4 years. This year, I'm very blessed to have this bigger team where we're able to have this kind of interdisciplinary, multidisciplinary conversations, learn from each other. But in the past, I had been implementing it just alone in my classrooms. So I'm going to share some of the results from the student perspective from just my past cohorts. With a bit of a caveat that my sample sizes are quite small. I teach in a career program. So in terms of the number of students completing surveys, we're talking about 20 to 25 per semester. But overwhelmingly, my students were very much agreeing that the video rubrics increased their ability to edit their assignments. So it makes sense in class. I go home and I write it, but then there's a gap in between when I'm submitting it. But the editing is supported. Increase their understanding of the assignment. So once again, sometimes the explanation seems crystal clear in the classroom, but when the student is alone writing the paper at whatever time of day or night, they might have gaps in that understanding. And then overwhelmingly, students agreed that it has a positive impact on their learning. And then what I polled the students with is, these Likert scale questions, then as well to ask them to elaborate on the impact that the video rubrics had on their learning. And so what I expected was for the students to feel supported academically. A nice side benefit that I identified was, or that came out through their answers, was that it seemed to increase their, or decrease, I should say, their stress level around an assignment and increase kind of their wellness or sense of control over assignments. So some little sound bites here. It gave me a sense of relief to go over my assignments with the teacher on that mini screen. So what you saw from our samples and what we've all done is we made sure that the teacher is present in the video. What little research we were able to find to, in sense of a lit review in the proposal of this project, it did support that the teacher's face be present to add a bit of a human touch. The engagement from the teacher felt like a one-on-one moment. Fantastic. If we can offer office hours, asynchronously, why not? It's so nice, or it's nice because I don't usually ask for help with the video, but the video helps with some questions I have. So if there are students for who there's a barrier, either culturally or cognitively, to asking questions in class, and this can help bridge that gap, I think that's a great resource. It was very helpful for me when I needed. I watch it many times, so it was really useful. Another thing that I wasn't expecting was that students would go back and rewatch. I really thought it would be kind of a begrudging one and done because I'm saying it's mandatory, but at least one individual was using it multiple times. Enjoyable because Tim puts jokes in it. It helped me sit down and actually work through my editing process. I have executive functioning disorder, so sometimes I skip steps in my editing. So just a nice little touch there. Add a bit of humor, add that human touch, but as well, we're supporting a student who otherwise may not have, let's say, the capacity to plan through an editing process. And then the last two little sound bites here are just reflective of the generation we're teaching. These video rubrics are fire and so slay so far. So you can't beat the honesty.
So for me, I still find it alarming to think about this. But when Tim first approached me about participating in the project, it was only maybe a year and a half ago. And by the time we started working on it in January of this year, basically everything had completely changed for me as an English teacher because of ChatGPT and Gen AI. And so the first challenge I had was that I was no longer having students do any work at home at all. And so it was really pressed at first to think about how I would use these video rubrics. But I realized that this move to in-class assignments it's hard on teachers, but it's really hard on students because they are not given any time to reflect on their work or edit it. We can't even give them questions in advance. They're not allowed to bring anything into the classroom. So I started thinking that maybe there was a way to use the video rubrics in a formative way to help prepare students for those in-class assessments. So this fall, I created 3 rubrics. I had 2 take-home practice paragraphs to prepare them for the in-class writing. And there were 2 rubrics for each of these practice exercises. And I am grading the second test right now. So I haven't done the formal survey or formal analysis of the work, but anecdotally, I've noticed a few things. One, I haven't had the buy-in, like Sunny was saying, the buy-in from students to the extent that I thought I would. In particular with the video rubric that is about formatting the work, which is a very straightforward thing. It's possible to get 100% on that part of the grade, and I have a lot of students who didn't seem to have used the rubric in a meaningful way because they didn't do well on that portion of the assignment. But when I have a chance to look at the work, I'll be able to see if there's a correlation between the students who did very clearly use the rubrics and the work that they produced. So right now, I still feel confident that the rubrics can be useful in helping students prepare for these in-class assessments, but it may be that I will have to make some changes to the way I'm developing the rubrics, what I'm putting into them, where they're located. So there's a lot of questions that hopefully the surveys will help me answer as well. If I can take one more minute, I would just say that I came into this project with no experience with making videos or interactive videos. I'd never used Moodle. I followed Carl's lead and I used Loom and I used Moodle. At the beginning, I was so intimidated that I kind of fell into a I'll do it tomorrow pattern, and eventually I had to do it. And it wasn't really that difficult, and actually they're quite fun. And when I was done making them, I kind of wanted to make more, but there wasn't really a reason to do that. So if you're a person who feels kind of intimidated about taking on a project like this, if you have somebody who can guide you through some of the technical challenges, it isn't really that easy to get a handle on. And once you know how, they're quite quick to produce. And as I said, they're quite enjoyable.
So at this stage, we're about 75% of the way through the what we set out to do in the CCQ grant. As we've all mentioned, we've given all these videos in all our different disciplines, and again, as Stacey has said, and as I've said, the buy-in has been different in different disciplines. Again, based on what that is, could be where the students are in their progression through CEGEP or not. There's more to be teased out there, but students have been given the survey in my class, and some of the anecdotal information I got from that is that there has been very positive feedback about these videos. Those who use them did appreciate them and did find them helpful. In terms of generative AI, which is also an issue for lab reports as well in the sciences, students that did respond to questions about that did say that they used generative AI less to help them write this, and it also, for a lot of students, a lot of comments that I got said that it gave a better idea of what was expected of me rather than just a blurb in a document. So there was definitely some positive feedback. Now, for the other classes, surveys are going to be going out a little bit later, and so we'll see how that stacks up with other disciplines and with other teachers.
Okay, so I'm walking through this here. So there are obviously different ways that you can go about this, especially post-pandemic. Now there's piles of different ways to record videos, and there's piles of different platforms. Um, I I personally use Loom. I don't know why. It was somebody turned me on to that. I don't know, 2018 or 2019. And now I've just got a bank of videos, a massive bank of videos in there. And it just, I find it easy, and I have the little the application on my computer. But I know we all use Zoom, we all use Teams, almost everybody uses PowerPoint, and it's just as easy to record stuff. I've actually recorded videos in Teams and Zoom before. You just hit record and there you go. It's very simple to do. You know what, I've used Clipchamp to just cut things down. So they're all quite intuitive. They're quite user friendly. If you don't have experience, as Stacy mentioned, you just sort of dive in and you'll probably figure it out. Adding the interactive questions can be a little bit more problematic, a little bit more challenging. I don't have experience with Edpuzzle, PlayPosit, or TED-Ed. I have used H5P, and it's not particular. It can be a bit of a challenge, especially if you're using it through Moodle, because getting to there is not intuitive. At Vanier, we have a subscription to H5P, which is a subscription service that you otherwise have to pay for it if your college isn't using it. And we couldn't figure out that we had access to it until one of our ped counselors showed us how to get in there. So that's not entirely obvious. Once you're in the H5P, you play around, and there's a lot of different features, and you might need a little bit of help, but it takes some time. Just like Moodle, Moodle is very vast, and there's a big learning curve. But once you get over that initial hump, you realize how much is open to you and how much you can actually do. But it takes some time and some effort to climb over that. I don't think we're going to show anybody specifically in this one, but I myself am willing to help anybody who has any questions at any point if you wanted to reach out to me, and I'm sure my colleagues here would be offering the same.
And I can kind of second what Carl was saying. I personally had never used Moodle until this point, and once you figure out where things are and how to edit things and how to add questions in H5P, it does become a lot simpler. As I've mentioned before, I use PowerPoint. I've used Teams as well before to make videos. I've used PowerPoint because you can put your face on there in PowerPoint. So it just becomes a matter of getting used to it. And once you get used to it, and once I got used to it, especially using H5P, it does become a little bit more intuitive, and you can get things done a lot quicker.
And I'll really just speak quickly to the other options that are listed there in terms of adding in interactive questions. Edpuzzle was a free software that I found where it's a little bit clunky, it's a little bit clicky, but it is available. So if you are somebody who is just really, as we're encouraging, Moodle, once you wrap your head around it, you get in, it is very, very powerful and quite smooth to use. But if that's a real kind of block, there are free softwares out there. So Edpuzzle, I would say, being the strongest option. I was initially, when I started the project, using a software called PlayPosit, but then it got purchased by this bigger company, and the institutional license is just, it's way out of, I think, anybody's budget at the time. However, like Carl was saying, H5P is a subscription, and I do know that PlayPosit can integrate into Moodle. So I'd encourage, individuals to speak to their ped counselors, speak to their pedagogical offices, and see what sort of tech subscriptions the college has, licenses, and maybe there's something out there that could be a solid option for you. And then lastly, TED-Ed it's through the TED Talks family or platform. And the issue I saw with that was you would provide the students with a video, but the questions only popped up at the very end. So it wouldn't be freezing the screen and prompting the students with questions throughout. Carl, did you want to speak to the strengths and limitations of H5P?
Sure. Yeah, I was actually just I noticed the Q&A and I was just playing around in there to see if I could find
Sorry.
an open-ended question or not, as I've never used open-ended questions in H5P. I haven't looked for them. I haven't had the context to use those. So I actually don't know. Karin asked if you can ask open-ended questions, and I don't know the answer to that. I was trying to figure it out.
Sure.
So let's say maybe a limitation of H5P is you can't offer open-ended questions, but I don't know whether that's actually the case or not. You know, I haven't really stretched the boundaries of H5P, and I think one of the strengths, just like with Moodle, is how much you can really do. There's an incredible amount of options in there, and so far, really all I have done is stick in a video and pop a few questions and little things that show up here and there, little blurbs, which, you know, is good enough. I think it works quite effectively, but only, I think, scratches the surface of what really is possible. So strength is that it really opens a massive array of possibilities. I don't know how well all of these integrate into Moodle. I'm going to guess that they do, but you know, sometimes there are little glitches. I know I embed lots of different platforms in Moodle, and some of them glitch every once in a while. So maybe if you're trying something really crazy with H5P, it might not align that well. And, you know, limitations, if you're not able to find an open-ended question, then there are going to be those kinds of limitations. And I think the biggest limitation, though, is just that initial activation energy, that initial hump to get over. If you've never done this, it can be a bit of a challenge. And also the limitation of realizing you have to access the content bank through Moodle to actually get to where you can edit H5P. And I don't know, we can't show that here, but I just went through and was like, oh wait, how do we get there again? Oh, right, content bank, because it really is not obvious through Moodle how you get to where you can access the H5 and edit the H5P.
Great. I can speak to the open-ended question. The short answer is no for during the video, but they do allow for, I believe they call it something like summary statements. So at the final step, once the video is done, the students, I think, can submit some sort of, which you could rephrase, you know, as an open-ended question. So if you're looking for something that encapsulates, you know, just the final point you'd be taking care of, but throughout the H5P video, unfortunately, no. However, you know, if you find another software that supports that, that'd be great. So I'm just going to really speak quickly to Edpuzzle. This is, we just wanted to offer an alternative to H5P. We're all using Moodle this semester with H5P videos embedded, but again, just trying to be increase accessibility for everybody. So within Edpuzzle, one of the limitations kind of is opposing to a strength of Moodle, where in Moodle all the data is protected. In Edpuzzle, you are having to create an account. And if the students want or if you would like your students' answers saved, they also do need an account. So if you want to keep track of who's completed the video rubric, they would need to log in and sign up and add their email, which, you know, with current privacy laws can be a little bit murky. However, if you're offering this as a resource for students to go to, you know, whenever they need to, and you're not tracking it, it could be a good solution. And within Edpuzzle, you do need to assign a correct answer to each question. So for me, that was a bit of a block because I'm really trying to keep this, you know, formative. We're just reflecting. We're seeing if we've checked off the different steps in our editing process. And unfortunately, Edpuzzle is going to sort of give you a point or say, you know, hey, that's wrong, where there is not really a right or wrong answer. So when I did use this one semester, I just told the students, you know, I can't stop it from trying to assign points to your answers. However, this process is not affecting your grade. It's really just so you can reflect, you can edit, and you can process through it. So this brings us to our final slide here, where we're very open to questions. I can't see the chat because I'm sharing the PowerPoint here, but I'll let somebody else moderate. But like Carl mentioned earlier, email us, any of us, all of us at any time, and we'll be happy to chat more specifically about how we're using them or software-based. So I'm not sure if Nicole, you wanted to moderate some sort of Q&A, but we're open to it.
You want me to moderate it? Sure, go. Somebody else was
No.
saying something?
There are no questions. No, but I have one.
Go ahead.
Okay. It won't be long. I'd like to know how did the collaboration take place among you on the project? How did it work?
That's a great question.
Yeah,
go for it, Carl.
Well, so how did it come to be, or how is it working, or both?
Yes, and we task aussi distribution, meeting.
Well, okay, so I'll answer all of the above. Tim mentioned that he had this idea several years ago and has been working through this for a while, and then decided he wanted to try and expand, take his idea and see whether others could adopt and adapt that idea within their particular context. I think he might have spoken to me about it at one point. I mentioned Sunny. I think he reached out to Stacy, and it seemed like a good mix of people from different disciplines. Even though Sunny and I are both teaching in science, we take different approaches from different disciplines, and it offered the opportunity to take this idea and implement it in different contexts. And we still have a lot to discuss with regard to that. I think there's some really, I think there's the possibilities for some really rich insight coming out from our interactions, but we haven't made it that far yet. And there was a slide that said we're 75% of the way through here. The 25%, I think, is going to be us really trying to figure out what happened in our different classes and why, and how we can make this work better within our individual contexts. Our team is great. I've worked with everybody here in various ways in the past. We all get along really well, and Tim's the boss, and he's running the ship. How did the meetings go? Tim runs the meetings. Everything runs really smoothly. So this is a great team to be a part of. It's a lot of fun. It's a really fun project. So it's all been happy so far. Even if the results haven't always been quite as encouraging, sometimes you get really interesting insights from those results that don't work out the way that you thought they would, right?
I think we're all on the same page in the sense of let's try it and present it honestly. Let's not try to, trim away the things that aren't positive. And we're looking at working with people. People change. We talked about different cohorts, different dynamics, different years in the program, the motivation of a science student versus a career program student. So the insights have been really interesting. And like Carl said, I think we all work well together. We meet online for the most. I don't think we've ever had an in-person meeting. It's always online, so we can kind of respect our various teaching schedules. But it works really well. We meet on Teams.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. Are there other questions? No? Okay. So it is 12:42, so I understand.
So Kevin had another question in the Q&A here. It's just about H5P.
Okay.
But unfortunately, it's another one of these that I don't have a direct answer to. Again, but that's part of what how I'm using H5P here. It's not I'm not using it as a quiz whose answers I want to determine. I'm using it as just sort of reminders for students. As I go through something in the rubric, then I bring up a question, which is just like, remember this, or did you do that? And I'm making them actively click through to note that they've done something here. But I'm pretty sure you can keep score through H5P. So but I haven't gone back to see what the particular answers are. So I don't actually have an answer to that question. Do you know, Tim, whether you can go back and see student responses?
You can, yeah. So as long as the student goes all the way. So one of the limitations to H5P, not limitation necessarily, but a nuance I would say is you have to insert a submit answers button. So the video will automatically put it at the very end. But if you have any sort of, like Carl mentioned, H5P is a huge, it's not only interactive videos, that's one of kind of the branches we're using, but you could assign points to each question. So it could be used for some sort of knowledge comprehension check. And then you can go back, and if the student has watched it till the very end and clicked submit, H5P can either, be used to go back and track individual answers, or if you have assigned a point value to different answers, it can generate a score.
Oh, so thank you for this webinar. Yes.
Thank you.
Which was very instructive and
Thank
very
you.
inspiring. And you presented a concise, clear, very well explained and structured webinar. More, I see that its content can apply to various types of programs and disciplines, and I appreciate it too.